Assalamu alaikum everyone, dear all, welcome. We're in week 6, or I should say seminar lecture 6. As you know, we're following a 12-week, like a mini course. The contents that I've been delivering is actually from our university content at ISRA, Islamic Studies Research Academy, which is under Charles Sturt University, SciSec. And I wanted to give some sort of a taster course here of what we teach there. And if anyone is interested, you can go and check ISRA website or the university website to see our courses. You can do your master's even, or even PhD, if you already have master's. So we'll continue, inshallah. This week we will be looking at Islamic Worldview, Faith Essentials and Theology, Lecture 6, Creation Narrative of the Qur'an. So we're going to focus on the creation narrative of the Qur'an and see how much it sort of matches with modern science. The beginnings, the universe is created in truth with profound purposes and fixed term. The Qur'an says, it's chapter 46, verse 3, "We have not created the heavens and the earth and all that is between them save with truth and for an appointed time. But those who disbelieve turn away from that day, the day of judgment, about which they are warned," the Qur'an Karim says. So the Qur'an clearly tells us that we created the universe for an appointed term. It means it has a beginning and an end. The universe, or astronomically speaking, space-time, did not exist once upon a time. There was a definitive moment that marks the beginning of time. And when God Almighty, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, decided to create the universe, all it took was a command, which is be. We learned this from the Qur'an, or kun in Arabic. Verily, when he intends a thing, his command is be, and it is. So all that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does is say be, kun, and there it is. There is the creation. Again, this is from the Qur'an, chapter 36, verse 82. It is he who also created the heavens and the earth in true proportions. The day he said be, behold it was. His word is the truth. Again, from the Qur'an. So, when we look at these verses in the Qur'an and we try to sort of analyze it from a modern scientific perspective, the first thing that comes into our mind is the Big Bang theory, as you know. That is the most acceptable theory for the beginning of the universe. Now, almost all physicists accept it, and the reason for that is we can actually, verify it with observable data and also mathematical equations, such as the Hubble constant, for example. After a short time, the early universe started to glow, separating the matter as observable and dark matter. This is after the Big Bang. The universe started to glow because it cooled down. Because initially, after the Big Bang, there were no atoms. Particles were being created. 380,000 years after the Big Bang, atoms started to form. 380,000 years. And that's when the universe actually became visible. That's when light came in. And also dark energy as it expanded. There was dark matter there as well. Praise be to Allah, the Qur'an says, chapter 6, verse 1, who created the heavens and the earth and made the darkness and light. Again, if you see the way that scientific narrative, how it goes, and the Quranic, the verses, they sort of match all the way. So he created, after the creation of the universe, first he created the darkness and the light. Yet those who reject faith hold others as equal with their guardian Lord. They become arrogant. So they hold others equal, sometimes even themselves. They deify themselves with their Lord. After this instantaneous creation, out of nothing, space underwent a rapid expansion, which we call the Big Bang, as you know. Early universe consisted of a single lump of light, energy, and matter. Seeds of galaxies were split from this single lump of primordial mass. It is assumed that the first instant of the Big Bang, what existed then, we know it's just some sort of a radiation soup, some sort of a plasma existed. And they are speculating that it was made up of gluons and quarks. So there were not even particles yet, as we know, such as protons and electrons. They came in after, later. So that's the initial instant. And then everything is just spread, because they were all squeezed into one point, which we can call the Planck length. That's how small the universe was. And Planck length is sort of defined by 10 to the power of minus 35 meters. That's how small it is. So it's trillions of times smaller than an atom. The entire universe was squeezed in there. And when the Big Bang occurred, so it started expanding, inflating, and everything was, we can say, cloud asunder. So what does the Qur'an says? Do not the unbelievers see that the heavens and the earth were joined together as one unit of creation? That's a very interesting term, because two physicists, one of them was Muslim, Abdus Salam, a Pakistani physicist, who received the Nobel Prize for this. They have established that all forces that exist in the universe, four fundamental forces, were only one at the beginning. And they call this grand unified theory, which means that electromagnetic force, strong nuclear force, W, the weak force, and gravity, they were all squeezed into one point. And the Qur'an says, do not the unbelievers see that the heavens and the earth, everything was joined together as one unit of creation before we clove them asunder, before we spread them, expand them. Will they not still believe? The Qur'an says. The evidence is there. After the initial Big Bang, the universe has been expanding at a steady rate. And we can measure this rate. That's what I was referring to before, the Hubble law. And the Hubble law is, for every megaparsec, the universe expands at a speed of approximately 72 kilometers per second. So if you go to the second megaparsec, it doubles that. Another megaparsec, it doubles that. So the velocity keeps on increasing as you look further into the universe. So the universe that we're living at the moment is expanding at tremendous speeds, velocities. When you do the math, we sort of come to the result like it's about 3 times the speed of light. The universe is expanding. It's amazing. So what does the Qur'an say about this 1400 years ago? Because we learned through science, through astronomy, that the universe is was expanding, according to that time, it is expanding, in 1925, when Edwin Hubble realized that all galaxies were moving away from each other. So the universe was inflating like a balloon. 1925, but 1400 years ago, look what the Qur'an says. And it is we who have built the universe with power, and verily, it is we who are steadily expanding it. So the Qur'an says Allah is expanding the universe, and Qur'an mentions this 1400 years ago, and we find out about it about 100 years ago. So this expansion occurred in stages and the universe opened up like a rose, or a roll in orderly fashion. It was being fine-tuned. The universe was being prepared for life in the future. And the Qur'an says, the day we roll up the heavens like a scroll rolled up for books, even as we produce the first creation, we shall produce a new one. A promise we have undertaken, truly shall we fulfill it. So Surah Anbiya 104 says, one day will come, we will roll up the universe like a scroll. So it is a possibility, according to the Qur'an, that universe will one day collapse onto itself. Although the current data shows us that it is, its expansion rate is increasing, so it's indicating to an energetic death, the big freeze, or the big rip, we don't know. But eventually, all the stars in the universe will go out. They will all fade. Maybe the only thing will be remaining, in maybe, we don't know how long later, black holes. All that will be remaining in the universe, black holes, and they will swallow all the matter that is left behind. So in a way, it's being folded up again. In this unlayering of the universe, the cosmos created in 7 layers. He who has created 7 heavens in full harmony with one another, no fault will you see in the creation of the most gracious. Can you see any fault in his creation in the universe? No, everything works with physical laws, measurable laws. There's no faults there. Everything is following, ticking like a perfect clock. And turn your vision upon it once more. So the Qur'an is, encouraging us to look up in the heavens. Turn your vision is like a commandment here, isn't it? Encouraging us to study the universe. Can you see any flaws? Can we see any flaws? No, we don't. Cosmos is held together in a balance of matter, motion, and forces. The Qur'an says, and the firmament has he raised high, and he set up the balance there. So everything is created with balance as well. Do we know this from a scientific perspective? Yes, we do. As I mentioned before, the universe is governed by 4 fundamental forces. Any change in these forces will be the end of the universe. Like, for example, electromagnetic force, which acts, within the atom. If there is a change in its power, in its force, the universe could just collapse. It could happen in an instant to quantum collapse, for example. So everything is balanced. But this balance is maintained with forces that we cannot see. And the Qur'an again states, He it is who has created the skies, the heavens, without any supports that you could see. Everything is holding together, isn't it? Like, for example, if we look at our own, solar system, you have the sun there. It's a star, medium sequence star, in the middle of the solar system, and all the planets are revolving around it in an orbit. All of us are around it in an orbit, and this has been going on for the past 4.6 billion years in that system. And everything works with precise measurements. Whether it's centrifugal force, centripetal force, or the gravitational force, everything is calculated with perfect measurement and working together. And how are they holding up there like that? All these great masses we cannot see. What we say is the space is made up of something. It is not absolute emptiness. That's why we use the term the fabric of the universe or fabric of space, which carries all these masses. The gaseous nebula and the cloud of matter to form the solar system were coalesced into the sun, the Earth and other planets as well. In fact, this occurs all over the universe, all the galaxies and everything. And the Qur'an says, moreover, he comprehended his design in the sky, and it had been as smoke, nebula, gas and dust. He said to it, and the earth, or he said to it, and matter, the solid matter. Or we could take it as he said to the gas, all the gases, and the dust, come you together willingly or unwillingly. They said, we do come together in willing obedience. So this is how galaxies, solar system are formed. Initially, if it's an interstellar, if it's a stellar nebula, for example, it's made up of all these gases and dust. It's turning, spinning around itself. And eventually, because of the mass, it starts collapsing onto itself because of the mass, gravitational pull. It pulls all the particles together, all gases and dust together. And as it's collapsing, it starts spinning faster. And you can use the example of in physics, for example. There's ice figure skaters. When they spin around during doing their figure skating, if their arms are open, they spin at a certain velocity, but as they close their arms, their velocity gets quicker. So this is the way nebula collapses, and all matter within it starts spinning faster. And then as the center, we see the formation of a star, all the gases and dust around it, they come together too through the pull of gravity, and they form planets around it. But because of that spin, that continues. So the Earth has that, angular momentum since the collapse of that nebula. And it's been split. And all the planets are like that. So bigger ones, yes, they become gas giants like Jupiter. Smaller ones becomes rocky planets, like the Earth, Mars, Earth, Venus, and so on. So the Qur'an clearly says here, how the procedure occurs. What steps are taken there in the creation of, for example, the solar system. And very interesting term here, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala addresses all matter there and says, come together willingly or not willingly. What does that mean? If we take it literally, he is actually speaking to lifeless matter. But if you look at behind it and if you try to interpret it, what it means is he is establishing the law of gravity there. And they are coming together willingly because they have no other option. Gravity pulls them together. So what I understand from this is Allah creates gravity and they obey. Everything obey. Willingly or unwillingly means you have no other option anyway. You have to obey because it's the law there, law of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As the other stars and the celestial objects were created, they were set in orderly fashion to set laws by Allah's commandments. Again, we look at chapter 7, verse 54. The sun, the moon, and all the stars, they are all obedient to his commands, his laws. The verse. Know well that this is the creation and his is the command. Blessed and supreme is God, the Lord of the worlds. Rabbul Alamin. Every celestial object follows their unique orbits. Everything is in an orbit in the universe. Or we can observe it. And they make so many movements. It's incredible. It's amazing. Like if you take the Earth, like it spins around itself. Yeah. Every 6 months or so, it's moving like this, around the sun, because the gravitational pull of the moon is affecting us as well. So we got motion around ourselves, we got motion around the sun, and at the same time, with the sun, all the planets, including the Earth, it's on an orbit around Sagittarius A, which is at the center of the Milky Way galaxy, the big black hole. And we are moving at a speed about 790,000 kilometers per hour, so about 800,000 kilometers per hour with the sun. So we're following it like that. And it takes the solar system to go around the Milky Way, or the center of the Milky Way, 225 million years for one orbit. And the Milky Way itself is moving too. So everything is on an orbit in the universe. It's amazing, you know. Now, what does the Qur'an say in regards to this? It is He who created the night and the day and the sun and the moon and all the celestial bodies, all the stars, planets, everything. They all swim along, each in their rounded course, in their orbits. So 1400 years ago, the Qur'an is saying this. They're all swimming on an orbit, in an orbit which is assigned for them.
Swim is an interesting word as well.
Yeah. Yes. And the creation of the human being. The creation of the cosmos, including the earth, took 6 stages, and this is mentioned a number of places, in a number of places in the Quran. Apart from meaning a day, the term yawm, as you know when you read the Quran, you have this in the Torah and in the Bible as well, in the Gospels as well, 6-day creation. And sometimes people, you know, ridicule this because they think it's talking about a day as we understand to be 24 hours. But if you look at the Arabic term yawm, it doesn't only mean day, it means stages. That's what it means if you look at the meaning of it. And another thing is, those days, you know, during the creation of the universe, 24-hour days did not even exist because there was no earth then. So it could not indicate to that anyway. Moreover, the Quran also mentions special relativity principle of Einstein very clearly too. The Quran says in Surah Ma'arij, verse 4, the Ruh, the Spirit, and the angels ascend to him in a day which is your 50,000 years. So for the angels, it's a day. For us, it's 50,000 years. So the Quran is saying, with velocity, time slows down. So for the angels, it only takes about a day, but for us, for the observers, it's 50,000 years. So the Quran already mentions that. So the term day is also used there for 50,000 years. So we can see that it's talking about some sort of stages. So when the Quran says, you know, the universe was created in 6 days, it means 6 stages, 6 equal periods. And if we do the math, it's very interesting. 13.8 billion years, the universe was created, 13.8 billion years. Divided by 6, it's 2.3 billion years. So each stage is 2.3 billion years. So how do we confirm this with the Quran? In another verse in the Quran, it states, the earth was created in 2 stages, 2.3, 4.6 billion years. Mathematically, we can sort of, you know, provide evidence for it too. And we know that the term yawm or ayyamin, days there, means stages. Indeed, your Lord is God, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who has created the heavens and the earth in 6 stages. Then he has established himself on the supreme throne, which is Arsh, covering the day with the night, each pursuing the other swiftly. So everything is working in like a clock. The earth was created in a round shape. So globe, earth is a globe, yeah? And after he has spread out the earth in the egg shape, the term there, dahaha. And if you look at the Arabic terminology, in the olden Arabic, dahaha comes from daha. It actually indicates to an ostrich egg. If you look at the shape of the ostrich egg, it's not a perfect circle, but it's roundish. The globe, but it's roundish. But from the top and bottom, it's sort of squeezed in a bit. And that's how Earth is. It is not a perfect globe. Yeah? Once the Earth cooled down, its crust was formed in preparation for the development of life. Again, the Qur'an, chapter 51, verse 48. And we have spread out the spacious earth, and how excellently do we spread it out. The earth's magnetic field and the atmosphere was raised as a protective shield for life on earth. Again, in the Quran, as you know, earth has a magnetic field, which protects us from cosmic rays, also some of the harmful rays coming from our sun as well. And the Quran says, and that we have set up the sky as a canopy well secured. And yet they stubbornly turn away from all the signs of his creation. All the ayats are there, but they turn away from it. So the Quran is saying the earth's skies, heavens are protected. It clearly says, and people see this, but they turn away. Life on earth is linked to water. This could mean that the first life, which when it originated in water, or the fact that every living being consists or made up of largely water. All of us are like that. In the human body, about 65% water. And then the Quran says, do not the unbelievers see that we made everything from every living being from water? Again, will they not believe yet? And at the end, always the verse asking, look, this is the evidence, you see it, will you not believe yet? Everything is made up of water. I'm talking about biological organisms. The way that Allah creates things on earth is both originally and then repetition from the same design template. Again, the Quran says, say it is Allah who originates creation and repeats it. So it is not just at the beginning he created everything and just left everything by itself to run. In fact, his creation is continuous. Sometimes he creates from nothing, like originally when he created the universe, and other times he creates new things from what he created before, from the materials he created before. So there are two types of creation, from nothing and from things that already exists. Again, the Quran says in chapter 29, verse 20, say, travel through the land, through the earth, and observe how he began his creation, bada'a. Then Allah produces, yunshuhu, the final creation. Indeed, Allah over all things is competent. Living things are originally created in pairs. And of everything we have created pairs, and that you may receive instruction. Glory be to him who created pairs of all things, and what the earth grows, and of their kind, and what they do not know. But here's the interesting thing here. In the first verse here, 51:49, it's Surah Dhariyat 49, the term used there, of everything we have created pairs, not living things. Of everything. When you say everything, kulli shay'in, it means everything. Now, in the past, people have, the classical mufassirs, exegetes, such as Taberi, Qurtubi, Ibn Kathir, when they talked about what this verse means, everything created in pairs, they include many things like, female, male, day, night, hot, cold, long, short, faith, disbelief, belief, disbelief. They talked about all these things that, are made in pairs. But recently I wrote one paper, and I argued something else, and the evidence is there as well. You can find it on ISRA website as well. I argue that here the Quran is probably referring to matter itself, because matter itself is created in pairs. There's matter and antimatter. For every particle, there is an antiparticle. Electron, positron. Protons, antiprotons. It's like mirror image of matter. Antimatter is like a mirror image of matter. So indeed, initially, when everything is created in pairs. We know this because there is a thing called quantum fluctuations. It occurs in vacuum of space. Sometimes energy suddenly converts into matter. And we see the appearance of virtual particles. They only exist for a very, very brief time. Why? Because when they are created in pairs. So for example, if a proton comes into existence, it comes with its antiparticle. But when they are together, they annihilate each other. They cancel each other out. So initially, when the universe was created, there was most probably particle symmetry, meaning that every particle was created in pairs. Then something happened later on. Somehow, matter was preferred over antimatter. And the universe that we live in existed. Otherwise, everything should have gone back straight after the Big Bang into energy form. They should have annihilated each other. But something happened there, and matter was preferred. And the Qur'an says that as well. See, everything we have created in pairs. While life has originated from water and relies on water, God created everything in diversity as well. Again, the Qur'an says, do you not see that Allah sends down water from the sky? Then we bring forth with it produce of various colors, shapes, taste. And the mountains, there are streaks of white and red, and various colors, as raven black. And likewise human beings and wild creatures and cattle, diverse are their colors. All of his servants, only those who possessed of true knowledge, stand in awe of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the true alims understand the majesty of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Surely God is all glorious with irresistible might of all forgiving. This very famous physicist was a very famous physicist. He had this like a student with him, and this student was a very religious person. And one day they came out of the university after a class or something like that, and as they were walking in the car park, it was heavy rain started coming down, and there was thunder and lightning and things like that. And the professor had his umbrella under his arm. He was in deep thought. He was not even raising his umbrella. And the student said, sir, why aren't you putting your umbrella? And he said, look, when I look at all these, lightning strikes and everything, people don't understand, but normally, he says, acid should come down. But we see this, water coming down, rain. People should fear when they see things like this. And then he said, this awes me. He said. And the student said, well, there's a verse in the Qur'an about this. And he said, what verse is that? And he mentioned this verse to him. Surely only of his servants those who possess true knowledge. Scholars, scientists, true scientists, they will stand in awe of our God, Allah. When he heard that, this professor, he said, does the Qur'an says this? He said, yes. He said, that is a divine book. He testified to it. So Allah created everything in due proportion and guided them to their perfect form and purpose. Because everything in the universe has a certain shape, with precise measurements, with laws, they all function, but at the same time they all serve a purpose. They have a purpose. And the Qur'an says, glorify the name of your guardian Lord Most High, who had created, and further given order and proportion to everything. He ordained laws and granted guidance. So, as you can see, the Qur'an clearly explains the narrative of creation, how creation occurred, how everything took shape, how everything was formed, step by step. And when we compare it to knowledge that we have now in regards to scientific knowledge, everything matches perfectly. Science is not saying anything different to the Qur'an. Allah created animals and spread them throughout the earth as well, in the beasts of all kinds that he scattered throughout the earth, the Qur'an says. And then, after creating everything complete and in the most beautiful way, the creation of human being started from the essence of the earth. He who has made everything which he has created most good, most beautifully. أحسن كل شيء خلق. Allah creates everything beautifully. He began the creation of man, human, with nothing more than clay. So Allah created humanity from a single soul, single nafs. The Qur'an says, O mankind, be conscious of your sustainer who has created you out of one living entity, a single soul, Adam. And out of it created its mate, Hawa. And out of the two spread abroad a multitude of men and women. Men and women. So Allah not only created human being originally and life, all life on earth, but he continues to create every individual human being and all living beings. Again, the Qur'an states in chapter 23, 12 to 14, man did we create from the quintessence of clay, then we placed him as a drop of liquid, sperm, in the place of rest, firmly fixed in the mother's womb. Then we made the sperm into a clot of congealed blood. Then of that clot we made the fetus, a lump. Then we made out of that lump from the fetus bones, and we clothed the bones with flesh. Then we developed out of it another creature. So blessed be Allah, the best to create. Here it explains all the stages of human creation in the mother's womb. It begins with a drop of liquid, one sperm cell, tiny sperm cell, entering the ovum. And then what happens? It gets fertilized, and then it starts dividing and multiplying. Mitosis, dividing and multiplying, dividing and multiplying. Slowly, gradually, it turns into an embryo. From an embryonic stage, it turns into a fetus. And then you see the appearance of arms, head, eyes. It's amazing. And Qur'an is explaining this stage by stage. I think it's been a while, so Azan is about to be called. Maybe we should stop there. Inshallah. We'll continue next time.